shovel now. May the words of my lips and the meditation of my mind be acceptable before you, O Yah, my rock and my redeemer. Hallelujah. First and foremost, giving all honor and glory to the God of our forefathers, the God of Abraham, the God of Yitzchak, the God of Yisrael, Yehovah by name. To him and him alone are all praises due forever and ever. Thanking the Most High God for your lives this day, showing respect to the leader of D.C.B, Chief Prince Ben Yissaskar, to all the men of the council, men, women, and children within the sound of my voice, I bid you all on the talk of my forefather, Shabbat Shalom, Shalom, Lakem. Hallelujah. How y'all doing today? God is good. The Most High God, his hand has been in the earth, and we've been seeing all of these things that have been happening. Thanking the Most High God for being God. Thanking him for allowing us to have mercy. Thanking him for even showing us that with all of the things that happen, he is still protecting us, guiding us, healing us, shielding us, doing all the things that he promised to do. We just have to do our part. I have a lot of anxiety right now. I'm usually nervous, but I have a lot of anxiety because my subject matters that I want to talk about as I go into this portion of Chronicles. I don't want to take it lightly, and I want to make sure that I'm saying the right thing, because a lot is at stake in this day and time when you say the wrong thing or do the wrong thing. But at the same time, we still have to be valiant, brave, and of good courage when it comes to speaking up for truth and representing God in the right way. Before I get into the portion, I'm going to be doing Chronicles chapter 21 and 22. Let me go there first, because First Chronicles, yes. I definitely want to make sure. No. Should be, is it First Chronicles he gave me? First Chronicles? Okay, cool. 21, yeah, 20 and 21. Okay. Okay. That's what I got. I want you to first go to, and this is just to read it, the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 17. I want to make sure I address this topic of unity, and I want to make sure that I address it correctly, without offense to anyone, but at the same time making sure that the truth is told directly and fairly. There's nothing wrong with anyone desiring unity. It's something that we should all desire. But I also clearly understand that D.C.B exists for a reason, and that God established that reason. We didn't come to this conclusion on our own. We didn't come to this place lightly or by sheer desire of not to be around other people. This is something that through time and circumstances God forged. I clearly understand that we all should take responsibility for us not being able to do better towards one another. That's something that I will always own. That's something that I will always take accountability for. But I clearly understand that the effort was made. I clearly understand that we tried, and we tried, and we kept on trying, so that I can get some clarity on some things. I want Chief Meckel to read that portion.
We're in
the book of Proverbs, chapter 18, verse 17. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
He that pleadeth his cause first seemeth just, but his neighbor cometh and searcheth him out. So what happens is you may hear somebody talk about a subject matter, and based on the level of conviction that they're talking about the subject matter, they sound believable. But when you cross-examine them, when you ask the right questions, when the other parties and everybody's involved to have a conversation about that subject matter, the tables turn a little bit. Now it's not, oh, he's telling the truth, for what he wants to happen is going to happen. It doesn't make people bad, but sometimes when you want to solve a problem, you have to solve it the right way. And I need for us to have clarity, righteousness, and peace. You have to approach things the way you need to approach it. And it can't be just based off of how an individual feels. Don't you know that when people get divorced, the desire is not divorce? It's not the desire. The desire is not, I want us to be separate and I want our kids to be in different houses. That's not the desire. But sometimes it's the necessity. Because sometimes if you don't separate, somebody's going to get hurt. Somebody may even die because of the level of offense or disrespect that may have happened in a certain circumstance. So what we pursue and the stance we don't take lightly, and we don't, and it's not like we didn't pray to God on it. We did everything we could. And this is what God chose to be the outcome. It wasn't of our own walk, talk, volition. It wasn't of any of that. The next thing is, there are often times when we as individuals are, just to use the right term, we're tone deaf. We're tone deaf because we haven't always learned how to develop the empathy that it takes to understand another person's plight. In my career, I'm not in so much in social services now, but prior, I was, where you're dealing with people with different issues. I dealt with veterans. I dealt with people who were sex offenders. I dealt with people formerly incarcerated. I dealt with people who had different issues, different things. And when I went to a training on some of the subject matters, it teaches you how to meet people where they are, but it teaches you how to be open to a person's circumstances. Right. What do I mean by that? Oftentimes, I have a master's degree, but I may be talking to somebody that barely got out of high school, if they get to get out of high school themselves. Right. Do you understand that you can't be using the big words with them? Right. Because they won't understand you. You have to be able to talk to them and meet them where they are. And if I want to convey the message to them, I have to be able to talk to them in a way that they can understand. But with that, it also comes with hearing them, right? You hear them. So there are people that, like as I said before, I've never been raped. I've never been molested before, right? There's one thing to have sympathy for that person, and there's one thing to have empathy for that person. The sympathy is, I feel sorry for what happened to you, right? It's terrible. Come and give me a hug, whatever the case may be. But the empathy is, you know what, I can feel your pain. And oftentimes we have a problem with feeling another person's pain. And because we haven't experienced it, we don't understand it. Right. So sometimes when we have conversations about it, it kind of eludes us, and it's not intentional. Nobody intentionally saying, I'm not going to feel your pain. But sometimes, just by the very nature of you not experiencing something or a person, you can understand or can't understand how that person feels when they come around. Don't you know that there are people that when they see their molester or their rapist, they cringe. And they like, and you're like, why did you tense up already then? What's going on with you? It's because when I was 5, he touched me or he did this, whatever the case may be. And you can't fathom what they're feeling right now because you haven't experienced it. But you can have the empathy. You can have the care that comes with being a brother or a sister to know that, hey, don't bring George around. Don't bring Uncle John around. This is things that we lost in our family sometimes because sometimes we just, we would like to throw things under the rug instead of exposing the things that need to be exposed. So when it comes to us dealing with certain people, sometimes people are triggered by these things because of the experiences that they went with that individual. You may not have experienced with that individual. And you got the right as a human being to get along with anybody you want to get along with. But you can't deny a person's experience because that's their experience. So what we need to learn how to do is not be colorblind when it comes to all of our experiences. Like when I see some things happen inside the nation, like I see people, there's things that I know, like, hey, they got divorced, but he used to beat on her. And she used to insult him, and this stuff that's going on. I respect that, right? I respect that to the fact that if they're across that room and they're on the other side, they know that that's what they need to do to keep their peace. And before you say, well, why don't we all get along and kumbaya and all that stuff, that's not the route that always needs to be taken when there's no proper resolution in this nation. And we need to find a place to have that level of resolution. I get it. But if it's not done and people are obstinate and don't want to do what they need to do in a timely fashion, because justice delayed is justice denied, then you're going to have a problem. Because everybody's dignity is not for sale. Everybody's self-respect is not going to be sacrificed. So for you to get what you want, it's not going to be the way of the world. Some of us are ready, willing, and able to go to war for theirs. We're not going to allow our nation to be coerced into being victims of anybody. I'm not saying that we have to be at odds, but if you don't attack me, I don't have to attack you. But like Malcolm said, if you come up against me, you take them out. Sure, that's your God-given right to defend yourself. It's your God-given right to make sure that you ensure the peace and the peace of the people that you love. The peace of your institution, the peace of anything that you do, the work that you have before God. It's your job to protect it. Said when Abraham made a sacrifice, right, to God, the vultures came down. And I want you to see the symbolism of that. He's dedicating something to God, but there were other things out there that tried to poach and take what he dedicated to God. What did Abraham do? He said that he drove them away because he had to guard his covenant with God. That's our responsibility. If you need to contact me, feel free. I owe somebody some calls. And you can reach me at Instagram at Naphtali76. First Kings, you can reach me on Facebook at Naphtali David. If you need to reach out. But I hope I was clear. And I hope I was as caring and as sensitive as I could be on that subject matter. Now, I want this fire to spark a little bit more. So I would like to just say, if the brother gets a chance to hear me, if I can reach out, if I get his Twitter, whatever, because I'm not on Twitter. But to Kyrie Irving, stand strong. You're not the first person to deal with this. You will not be the last. But you are the person that's dealing with it right now. But God is good because he gives us salvation for even being strong. You remember what happened with Muhammad Ali, where he was barred and for his religious conviction, and he was set aside, and he was made to be a pauper, and had to borrow money here and there just for him to survive. But God saw him through. Remember what happened to Dave Chappelle, who said, "Listen, I'm not putting on that dress. I refuse to put on that dress. I'm not with this. I'm not with that. I'm out." They called him all types of stuff. He's bugging out. He's a crackhead. He's this. He's that. But you know what? He gave up that $50 million and wound up getting more money for standing on his conviction. I know that Kyrie apologized. He's doing what he has to do because, in essence, he did not, which I believe, I'm not the brother, I'm not in his head. He did not intend to offend people by trying to search out things for himself. The name of the book is called Hebrews to Negroes. It's not called I Hate Jews. Right. It's not called A Guide to Anti-Semitism. It's called, so if you're looking for something to find some edification for yourself, and it's called Hebrews to Negroes, hey, I come from an educated background. Brothers got master's degrees. People are teachers here. We know what time it is when we do research, right? As an adult, you learn how to eat the meat and throw away the bones. Every book is not to your liking, but if it pushes, or part of it pushes my argument, or in defense of my argument in my term paper or in my thesis, I'm going to use it. That's right. Because it exemplifies my argument. Right? If there's a part in it that people have a controversy with, discrepancy with, that's what it is. I'm not quoting the whole book. I'm trying to get what I can get out of that information. So the majority of the people who are calling him an idiot and he was wrong, they don't read anything. That's the funny part about it. They are not trying to find out anything about anything. They are happy being idle-minded Negroes. That's right. Cool, they got money, that's good, but money ain't everything, man. That's right. Money ain't everything. Money ain't worth your dignity and your self-respect. That's what kept us slaves for so long. Because we're so ready, willing, and able to compromise. That's right. No integrity. Yeah, the integrity is gone. Something that was real funny, and I noticed this is funny. You know what I'm saying? This is funny. This is funny, and I need to let people understand. You know how far it is for a person to be, they know that Kyrie is not the enemy. That's right. The Jewish community knows that Kyrie Irving or anybody like him is not the enemy. There's a difference between a Kyrie Irving and a Hitler who created a Mankov, talked about how he despised this people and put them in concentration camps and burned them alive and gassed them. There's a difference, right? For somebody who's trying to research about Israel or himself or whatever, he never proclaimed to be a Hebrew Israelite. He's just saying, I'm just trying to find out about myself. That's all. So, my whole thing is, the world that we live in is so obscure. You have to be able to deal with facts. And sometimes I wish that we have these connections with certain people or have these conversations, because I know that Kyrie, he's defending himself, but I could defend the fact that you would post something like Hebrews to Negroes. Because there's plenty of books out there, there's plenty of Jewish books out there that go against other Jews. That's a fact. There is a whole population of Jews who are against Zionism. Right. That met with the president of Iran. Are they anti-Semitic? Right. Teach us. There's a young boy that I saw on YouTube that was protesting in the march the occupation of Israel and Palestine. And the guards, they roughed him. He's from here. They roughed him all up, threw his yarmulke up, all that stuff like that, because he's wearing a Palestinian flag. He's not what was going on in Palestine. And there are plenty of Jews that believe in that. Crown Prince of Rishadai, black man from BINAH, Brooklyn, New York, goes anywhere he wants to go and worship. Right now, the place he goes to is an all-white camp, elderly camp. I can't tell you how many times we've been in places that whole idea of Israelite radicalism and stuff like that, whatever. All we ask is for conversations, conscious, scholarly, accurate, historical conversations on the validity of us as a people and you as a people. That's right. I take nothing away from you being Jewish. I am not anti-Jewish. Torah YAH, that somebody's praising God. You think we care what your color is? If we read the Tanakh and we read it's going to be a house of prayer for all people, what room is it in my heart to be racist against you? But if you hate me, I have no choice but to deal with my people with the defense that I need to deal with them in so that I can have my peace. Because God didn't put me on this earth to be anybody's victim. I did enough to offend God. My ancestors did enough to offend God. Why should I keep on offending God? By not standing up for what's right. So I say that because, I watched Charles Barkley call him an idiot. I watched Shaq call him an idiot. Ernie didn't really say anything that bad. I watched Kenny Smith say something that was sensible, right? Like if a person says that they didn't have an intent of hate, then I got to take them at their word. Because he didn't say anything to show that he had an intent of hate. But at the same time, I'm watching Charles Barkley and Ernie. They have a podcast, and they talked about the subject matter with a Jewish rabbi. The Jewish rabbi did not castigate, insult, mock, or take this hard stand against Kyrie. He said things will change once we have what? Dialogue. That's a fact. This is what the white Jewish rabbi said. So why is it eluding everybody else when it comes to having a necessary conversation regarding what anti-Semitism and anti-Semitism is and what it's not? What it is to be an Israelite and what it's not. What it is to be a Hebrew and what it's not. Don't you know if you are outside of American thinking, there are Jews of different denominations, cultures, and nationalities all over the world. Right. And the majority of us are people of color. There is a whole community of Indian Jews. There's a whole community of Chinese Jews. There are Iranian Jews still in Iran practicing Judaism. And the oldest community of Israelites on the planet are the Beta Israel of Ethiopia. They are undisputedly the oldest. Regardless, anybody can tell you about them being. If you want to know what Judaism is, you get it from them. Because they are the oldest practicing community on this planet. 1 million Jews in Nigeria alone. You have the Lemba tribe. You hear their folklore, they can tell you, yeah, our ancestors came from here, they came here, they did this, and they did this, and this is we came here, and that's how we got here. They have their oral story down pat. So this is not something that you're attacking him because he's getting into his research. Right. And he's starting his research. But break him at the gate. Exactly. Because he's Kyrie. I get it. You don't want that audience to happen. And this is what I say to Kyrie. Condemn it. Condemn all of the hatred, whatever the case may be. But when they ask you to validate the points that was essential for you in knowing who you are and your ancestry, pump it 100%. Because listen, I know how to deal with this in a tactful and manner. I don't hate nobody. Unless you declare hatred against me. That's why you need scholarship. You need people to talk about. I need you, as you're condemning me, I need you to condemn the rabbi and Israel that call black people monkeys. I need you to condemn the things that are in the Talmud and people like Reishi that talks about we came from a cursed seed of Ham. I need all of those things to be condemned. Because if this is a fair shoot, it's a fair shoot. And there are white Jews that condemn these things, but you notice every time there's people that stand up, regardless of what culture, against that machine, they get silenced. Yeah. Even amongst their own kind, they're silenced. Yeah. We went to it was myself, Yiftach, Benjamin, Yeshaya. We went to speak at Rockland Community College, somewhere a little bit upstate. And, as we're in there, there's black people there. There's Jews there. Like, there's people there. You know what I'm saying? I think one of the head of the Jewish departments was there, whatever the case may be. I don't know if there was some friction going on with the whole subject matter or her bringing the sister that brought us. We went to school with her in Tech that brought us on campus when we went to do the speech. But we got up there and talking after I finished, this is something that you're going to find interesting. There was a sister that came up. She said, he said it's hard, just like rejecting the whole concept of Christ and JC and whatever the case may be. I said, it's not for you to make decisions now from one speech from me, you know what I mean, or anybody else here. I said, and I get it. I said, it's a shock value, which I always try to teach the Israelites. You don't condemn people for their belief system because God put that on them. You got to think about that. God cursed us to be a people who praise God's wood and stone. So when the shock value comes in, you start to teach people. You have to teach them like they're the delicate human beings that they are. They don't know. They've been doing this because their parents have done this, and anything outside of what your family done is going to look like rebellion and disrespect. So they may not be ready to make that leap because they don't want to get cut off. They don't want to be like, I don't believe in JC no more, Mom. I'm like, what the hell? You don't believe in it no more? Stop being pork? What's going on? That's what they said to Malcolm. Stop being pork? What's up? But it's a shock value. They just can't go. And some people had that strength. I know Cohen Levy said that he found out about himself. First thing he did was he cried. Mm-hmm. And they said he went home and just threw away all the pork after it was cooked. But some people have that, it comes, but everybody's not like that. So one sister said, hey, I said, listen, you take your time with things. You do some more research. You find out because it's not about just my conversation. But I said, going against certain things is like going against your family heritage. It's like, it's something you just can't jump and do stuff like that. So she's like, God. But I get it. She understood. And then there was a young Jewish boy that was there that was talking like, look, he was looking at the ZCs. He said, y'all wear ZCs, but y'all wear the blue. And we're just kicking it. And I said to myself, they love us, whether they know it or not. They love us whether they know it or not. Maybe some of them, they you want to keep certain things under wraps, but at the same time, plenty of times I've seen it. I walk into the pizzeria and they see you with diseases, and those that are not scared want to talk and give you a hand five and boom. And if they had a choice, they'd probably go where you go. They want to be. How many times did people walk up in? I was in Bay Shalom, and they come up and they just be in there, and they're comfortable because we don't have that spirit on us. It's not. This is not about. It's about the worship and the glory of the true and the living God. And if you have it, then you can never deny me because of the color of my skin, because that's nowhere in Torah. That's something that you made up. That's a fact. And I can't deny you because of the color. I can deny you because of your immorality. That's right. That's the only thing that I can talk about. Right. But because the color, you think that God put something in this book, the everlasting, living, true and living, master of the universe, is going to confine his word to a phenotype. Phenotype. Don't work that way. No, as I said, he made us black. That's right. He made us black because that's what you were supposed to be. We didn't walk around, we walked around in a place called Eden. Remember, there was a garden of Eden, but then it was just Eden itself. Right? You walked around in the open fields. Sunshine. Hot. You know, everything was dead. Animals was dead. We was able to pick fruit and stuff like that. We didn't have the cave thing happening yet. So this is our protection. This is what allows you to live in the sun. This is what allows you to go in the open field and pick mangoes from off a tree. This is what allows you to do that. Yeah. This thing called melanin. Oh, I even found out that you get nutrients from the sun because of this. Yeah, so sometimes you don't even have to eat. You know, sometimes you out in the sun and you feel good because you're getting nutrients from the sun because of this. You can eat because of this. It's crazy, but God is good. And you know what? There's nothing wrong with this. Our society, what society did today, and part of what Kyrie's argument, and I get his argument, like he said something to the press, he's like, where were you when I was a kid? Like when I was dealing with all of these issues and trying to find out about myself, where were these questions? Like, you know, now when I'm trying to find out, when I'm Kyrie Irving, you know, my education is a problem now. Right. Or how I'm trying to learn about myself is an issue now. But when I needed to learn what was right, I didn't get it. Some things that I've learned in school, some things that I didn't learn in school, right? What happened to that boy? Oh, man, God is good. Also, condolences to the family of that brother Takeoff. We just got to do better. We just got to do better. But as I was saying, you know, go to school and you learn about this history, right? I learned about Greek history, right? But I didn't learn that Greeks had this fascination with Ethiopians. Yeah. I didn't know that the Greeks looked at the Ethiopians as the children of the gods. Yeah, but you research that stuff now, you get it. I didn't know that in the Iliad there was a black champion that was the rival of Achilles and all types of stuff like that. Like, you know, you don't read these things now because what happened with white supremacy is they created this atmosphere here, right, and tried to retrofit history with themselves in it. So when you see Babylonians, ancient Babylonians during the time of Abraham, they're white. And Persians are white. And the Egyptians are white. And everybody's white, whatever the case may be. But I'm trying to say, like, you know, if y'all turned that way there, how did y'all went there and obtained it, but then y'all decided to travel back here? And I just don't get it. It don't make logic after a certain amount of time. Right? Because it makes sense. Well, y'all at y'all atmosphere and the places that y'all were birthed in, I get that there, right? But I don't get it all in reverse. Like, you know, I'm trying to, like, wait, the black people came from Africa, but they went up, but they came back looking white and took over all the black people that was already in Africa to make Egypt. And I don't get it. You know what I'm saying? It just don't make sense. But at the same time, they're not expecting us to think, right? And it's not a hatred thing, but don't tell me stupidity anymore and make me okay with it. Start dancing, yes, sir. Yes, sir. Let me dance for you, sir. Let me throw the ball for you, sir. Let me do this for you. Yes, sir. Please, sir. Don't beat me no more, sir. Please, sir. Different generation, different people. Same blood, right? But we're different now. Like the brother said, it's 2022. That's right. He's trying to let you know, like, why am I being lambasted for doing research? That's all I'm doing is research. If I posted it, maybe that's his mistake, and maybe the mistake is that he doesn't know how to manage the machine the way he needs to learn how to manage the machine, because that's a machine you got to manage. Because they're going to poke at you for everything. They're watching everything that you do. They know that you have a person. He has 17 million followers on this thing. We got to make sure that he doesn't get these things out without, oh, we're going to catch this, whatever it may be. I'm like, I'm saying to myself, who cares? Like, that doesn't make a big deal. And I get the fact that people may be offended by the documentary itself. Right. But if somebody posts something, like if I post something to get the idea of the concept of what's going on, the main concept of that documentary is not the hatred of Jewish people. At all. It's not, right? It's in there, but the main concept, so he's dwelling on the main concept. So Mari started about it, our brother. He was on ESPN the other day. I'm sorry if I was a little bit zoned out today because I was just trying to get all of the research that I had on what was going on. Y'all probably saw it in my face. I'm walking around with this face on, like, I wanted to make sure I get everything out. But, I was very serious, right? So he said Kyrie's trying to find himself. That's what he's trying to research and find himself. Because they said, somebody is black and is Jewish. Yeah. So, what do you have to say about this? He said, well, Kyrie's trying to find himself. He's trying to do the research. He's trying to do this. He's trying to do that. And, I said, there's nothing wrong with what he's doing. It's just sometimes you have to vet the sources of where you're getting information from so that you can look into it and whatever the case may be. And that's what it is. So, and Kyrie took responsibility for that. He said, I didn't have an intent. I didn't mean to offend anybody. I don't agree with everything that's inside the thing, whatever the case may be. And there's things that Israelite wrote that I don't agree with everything that's inside that book. That's right. I know that. That's right. That's just facts. But as I said, he's an adult and he has the right to take the meat and throw away the bones. What you need to have is counteractive scholarship to talk about a lot of the things that happen with Jewish people and why there is this animosity against Jewish people. Because some people, when you research those things, you'll come to a surprise of why people don't like Jews. I don't believe in that anybody should not like a person based on whatever, because at the same time, the rank and file Jew is different from the Jews that are in charge in the establishment and all that. So you be one of people, I'm going to smack the yarmulke off his head and all that stuff like that. You a fool. Yeah. You a fool. Because he don't know nothing. Half of them don't know anything. They rely on their rabbis for all the information. Everything. So they're not walking around with knowledge and whatever the case may be. They know that y'all black people are scary sometimes and we need to stay away from you. You know what I mean? But they know that some of y'all is cool and I can't tell everyone I got to play ball. Right. If I want to play ball, I got to go where the black people are. Right. Problems, man. It's not a joke. So we got to pray for our brother. We got to pray for Kanye. Yeah. I don't agree with a lot of things he's saying, and I think that when he says certain things, it's just the manner of how you express yourself. Like you can glorify God, teach the truth without having to offend anybody. That's right. And everybody doesn't have the skill set. Right. And sometimes we need to be out there to give people the skill set. Because I know when to go off. But I know when to keep it structured too. I know how to do this, man. It's not because I've done it before. You got to be able to speak to people and meet them where they are. Because they don't know. A lot of these rabbis, they may come across like intellectuals, but they don't know a lot. They don't listen. I get it. They've lost countless amount of people. I think some people think that Holocaust in Germany was their only Holocaust. The very Hasidic movement was born because every time some people get mad, they want to blame Jews. And amongst Europeans, there's nothing to do with us. Right. I'm saying amongst Europeans. And they go after the Jews. Right. They want to go in there. They have something where they burnt them up and did all types of stuff like that. So I think one Rabbi, Baal Shem Tov, decided, like, listen, there's something with us that we're going to change. And they started to come up with an idea of being more disciplined when it comes to practicing Torah. But most Jews do not have that level of discipline when it comes to Torah. But they decided to do that. Did it change much of the hatred that happens? No. But there's Jews that, even in this country, there were Jews that fought with the Confederacy and Jews that were on the side of the North. I'm just giving you a bigger picture to get us to understand that there are people with their good and bad just like everybody else. We have to manage ourselves. Our ascension to the knowledge of who we are has nothing to do with anybody but us and God. So that's what we have to fight. Because if he's trying to learn more, there's people that can help him learn more. There's people that can to do this job, and they don't have to. We don't have to offend anybody in this process. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. So with that time, I think I'm gonna get through these 2 chapters. Y'all be with me. It's just a story, but I want to emphasize some things in these portions. But Tamshi,
we're in the book of 1 Chronicles, chapter 20, starting from verse 1. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
And it came to pass at the time of the return of the year, at the time when kings go out to battle, that Joab led forth the power of the army and wasted the country of the children of Ammon, and came and besieged Rabbah. But David tarried at Jerusalem. And Joab smote Rabbah and overthrew it. And David took the crown of Malcolm from off his head and found it to weigh a talent of gold. And there were precious stones in it, and it was set upon David's head. And he brought forth the spoil of the city exceeding much.
Now Malcolm is the idol god.
Right.
That is one of the gods that Moab and Ammon worship. So what David did was, it's almost like that display of kind of degrading the god. He took the crown off the god's head, and put it on his own head. So that was like showing that, like I defeated your idol. I defeated your God.
Right.
Tamshi.
And he brought forth the people that were therein, and cut them with swords, and with harrows of iron, and with axes. And thus did David unto all the cities of the children of Ammon, and David and all the people returned to Jerusalem. And it came to pass after this that there arose war at Gezer with the Philistines. Then Sibbecai the Cushites slew Sippai of the sons of the giants, and they were subdued. And there was again war with the Philistines. And Elkanah the son of Yair slew Lami, the brother of Goliath the Gittite, the staff of whose spear was like a weaver's beam. And there was again war at Gath, where was a man of great stature, whose fingers and toes were 4 and 26 on each hand, and 6 on each foot.
He was a mutant.
And he also was born into the giant. And when he taunted Yisrael, Yonatan the son of Shimeah, David's brother, slew him. They were born into the giant in Gath, and they fell by the hand of David, by the hand of his servants.
Now, I want you to understand the purpose of why men need to stand up and be strong at a pertinent time. If there wasn't a Shimshon, there probably wouldn't be a David. If there wasn't a David, you wouldn't have other men that said, hey, if David could slay the giant, I could slay the giant too. Because you know Israel. You dare me to do something, I do it. Yo, go up there and stuff my man. And we do stuff like that because we stupid. But in times of war, it's not stupidity, it's bravery. It's like, listen, this could be done. Because what happens is we are each other's confidence. Point. If we're the ones tearing each other down, how can I unify with you if you're the one tearing me down? When you're supposed to be my confidence, you're supposed to be the person that gives me the strength to go and move forward.
Right.
And not undermine my efforts when I make an effort before God. So when you got confidence, you got brothers that got your back, you won't be scared to take that javelin and kill that giant because, something happened to me, they're going to get this dude.
Yeah.
But let me see what I can do first. That's what brotherhood is. Right. So when he goes up and he fights this giant, it's because that men did the same thing before. Tamshi.
And Satan stood up against Yisrael and moved David to number Yisrael. And David said to Joab and to the princes of the people, go, number Israel from Beer to Sheba even to Dan, and bring me word that I may know the sum of them. And Joab said, Jehovah make his people 100 times so many more as they are, but my lord the king, are they not all my lord's servants?
So I want to clarify, even though they write the book and put Satan in there, it is Ha-Satan, it is the adversary, right? So when you start thinking about that, it being the devil, it ain't the devil, right? It's the adversary, which in essence, it's David.
It's mine, that's right.
It's David. When it says the adversary, that means that bad part of himself got the best of him and he did something that he was not supposed to do, right? He wasn't, or the adversary came and said, David,
yeah, go do this.
Go and number the people. I'm like, nah, that didn't happen. It was David that he was moved. And I want you to get the back or the context of why people do stuff like this, right? God commanded that we should not number the people.
Right.
There's a reason why. sometimes you think your pockets is light. You're like, what's up with taxes, man? You know, I wanted to get this new bed for my palace, and taxes is light. What did they give over there? Or what did they? And that starts that process. And then you start to be like Shalom. If you do not know, in context of how we read Shalom, we look at him as one of the wisest kings that ever lived, in which he was. But if you read historically about Shalom and what the people thought about Shalom, they hated Shalom. Because, you know, we had taxes that went towards the temple, right? And that process started, okay, we're going to give. When people were down with that, but then Shlomo continued the taxes, and the taxes got worse after the temple was already built. And a lot of that money went to the building of idolatrous houses for his wives. So Shlomo wasn't one of our favorite people. And God told him, you know, I'm going to rip the kingdom from you. I'm going to give it la-da-da-da, whatever. Sometimes we think about it, oh, man, that's messed up, whatever. But if that didn't happen, Shlomo would have probably been assassinated. That's how much people hated Shlomo. You know what I mean? But people decided to separate, and God gave the northern kingdom to Jeroboam, who was wicked as well. Story of our life. But those are the type of things that prompt those numbering situations where you like, you know, man, my pocket is light. You know, I know there's more Israelites in the kingdom than this. You know what I'm saying? We should have collected this much in taxes, but Tumshi.
Why will he be a cause of guilt unto Israel? Verse 4. Nevertheless, the king's word prevailed against Joab. Wherefore Joab departed and went throughout all Israel and came to Jerusalem. And Joab gave up the sum of the numbering of the people unto David. And all they of Israel were 1,000, and 100,000 men that drew sword. And Judah was 403 score and 10,000 men that drew sword. But Lewi and Benjamin he did not number among them, for the king's word was abominable to Joab. And God was displeased with this thing. Therefore he smote Yisrael, and David said unto God, I have sinned greatly in that I have done this thing. But now put away, I beseech thee, the inquiry of thy servant, for I have done very foolishly. And Jehovah spoke unto Gad, David's seer, saying, Go and speak unto Dawid, saying, Thus saith Jehovah, I offer 3 things. Choose thee one of them, that I may do it unto thee. So Gad came to David and said unto him, Thus saith Jehovah, take which thou wilt, either 3 years of famine, or 3 months to be swept away before thy foes, while the sword of thy enemies overtaketh thee, or else 3 days the sword of Jehovah, even pestilence in the land, and the angel of Jehovah destroying throughout all the borders of Israel. Now therefore consider what answer I shall return to him that sent me. And David said unto Gad, I am in a great strait. Let me fall now into the hand of Jehovah, for very great are his mercies, and let me not fall into the hand of man.
So, this is the great thing about David. He messed up real bad, right? But at the end of the day, he was given 3 options. Famine, fleeing from your enemies for 3 years. It's hard for a warrior to take something like that. Like, 3 months, excuse me. It's hard for a warrior to take something like that. Like, I gotta look like a punk in front of these guys for 3 months. Not doing that one. And then there was the pestilence from God.
3 days, which seemed okay.
Right. And he said, listen, and his explanation is, I'd rather put myself in the hands of the Most High God.
That's right.
With all things. Because that's who I violated. You know, man ain't merciful like that.
That's right.
And famine, you don't know what famine gonna bring.
That's right.
Tumshi.
So Jehovah sent the pestilence upon Israel, and there fell of Israel 70,000 men. And God sent an angel into Jerusalem to destroy it. And as he was about to destroy it, Jehovah beheld, and he repented him of the evil, and said to the destroying angel, It is enough. Now stay thy hand.
So see the balance. You're counting people, right? Because you want more, but you wind up losing 70,000 in this process.
Wow.
Don't count the people. Bigger lesson is, don't rebel against the Most High God's word. I know we all have our moments. None of our moments are, we never have an explanation for anything that we do against God, but we need to stop. Because the punishment is direct. When God says he pays us to our face, he really does.
He really do.
I don't know if you see it, but something I'm like, wow, I remember the parallel.
Yeah, that's a fact.
I remember the parallel. I remember the punishment that I'm getting, and I remember the parallel that I did to cause this thing to happen. If you're wise, Tamshi.
And the angel of Jehovah was standing by the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David lifted up his eyes and saw the angel of Jehovah standing between the earth and the heaven, having a drawn sword in his hand stretched out over Jerusalem. Then David and the elders, clothed in sackcloth, fell upon their faces. And David said unto God, is it not the I that commanded the people to be numbered? Even I it is that have sinned and done very wickedly. But these sheep, what have they done? Let thy hand, I pray thee, O Jehovah my God, be against me and against my father's house, but not against thy people, that they should be plagued. Then the angel of Jehovah commanded Gad to say to David, that David should go up and rear an altar unto Jehovah in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite. And David went up at the saying of Gad, which he spoke in the name of Jehovah. And Ornan turned back and saw the angel and his 4 sons that were with him, and hid themselves. Now Ornan was threshing wheat. And when as David came to Ornan looked and saw David, and went out of the threshing floor and bowed down to David with his face to the ground. Then David said to Ornan, give me the place of this threshing floor, that I may build thereon an altar unto Jehovah. For the full price shalt thou give it me, that the plague may be stayed from the people. And Ornan said unto David, take it to thee, and let my lord the king do that which is good in his eyes. Lo, I give thee the oxen for burnt offerings, and the threshing instruments for wood, and the wheat for the meal offering. I give it all. And King David said to Ornan, nay, but I will verily buy it for the full price. For I will not take that which is thine up for Jehovah, nor offer a burnt offering without cause. So David gave to Ornan for the place 600 shekels of gold by weight. And David built there an altar unto Jehovah, and offered burnt offerings and peace offerings, and called upon Jehovah. And he answered him from heaven by fire upon the altar of burnt offering. And Jehovah commanded the angel, and he put up his sword back into the sheath thereof.
I want to stop there. There was something that I noticed in this portion. There was a part I wanted Chief Mecca to read, but I'm not going to read it now. But did you notice they were doing a business negotiation, right?
Yeah.
Did you notice the character and how they were doing the negotiation? Sell this to me, right? Don't give me a bargain because I'm the king. I want to pay full price.
That's right.
For this property. And I'm giving you the reason why I want to do it. The brother, here's the reason why you want to do it. He's like, nah, you take it then.
Right.
Take it. And I'll give you some oxen and stuff like that, whatever the case may be. Because it was something greater than both of them.
Right.
So that's why they were haggling. They were haggling on how good they're going to do each other in this process. So David said, nah. I said, I wouldn't take anything because this is your portion by God. You have to sell it to me. I wouldn't just take it just because, people want to flatter the king, give to the king. I said, nah, this is bigger than that. You get the price, and anything that I get from you, I'm paying full price for it. Full price. So, how we deal with one another is extremely important. Not only for any circumstance that we have, but it's almost to the extent where, people like give to D.C.B. and there's people that give to D.C.B. But they give because they trust what we're going to do with what they give. He's willing to give because he trusted David on the purpose of why he asked for it. And David had the power to say, listen, this is something I'm doing for God. I'm paying full price for it. Because this, in essence, all of this stuff that's happening is on me. So paying for this is the least of his problems. But he just wanted to give a sacrifice and do that good. So as I say this, brothers and sisters, we need a building. We need this. We need that. We need school. We need all types of stuff. But look at us. Screen us. Check us out. See if we are worth the money that you provide us. Because that's what accountability is. See if we're doing the job that we are supposed to. Because the life of any leadership, of any government, needs to have checks and balances. It's like good King Azariah. He was a great king. But he decided to go up and offer incense that the priest was supposed to offer.
Right.
And became a leper for the rest of his life because that's not your job.
Right.
Checks and balances. There's things that is for the priests. That's their job. That's their portion. There are things that for the king, that's their job, that's their portion. There's things that for the common man, that's his job, that's his portion. Stop trying to be what you're not.
That's right.
Because you won't excel at it. Do what the Most High God designed you for. Because everybody want to try to be something that they know. Everybody want to be a king and a this and a that or whatever it can be. Just relax, man, and do your job. Whatever your job is. Tamshik.
At that time, when David saw that Yahweh had answered him in the threshing floor of Ornan the Jebusite, then he sacrificed there. For the tabernacle of Yahweh, which Moshe made in the wilderness, and the altar of the burnt offering were at the time in the high place at Gibeon. But David could not go before it to inquire of God, for he was terrified because of the sword of the angel of Yahweh. We supposed to do the next chapter?
Yeah, I was.
Hallelujah, chapter 22. Then David said, this is the house of Yahweh God, and this is the altar of burnt offering for Yisrael.
No. What does the thing say?
It says 2021, but I think he made a mistake. It's 21-22.
22, right.
Because
Okay.
20 he did, because I read that before.
Got you. All right.
Verse
Torah
2.
ooze, chief.
And David commanded to gather the strangers that were in the land of Israel.
The what?
To gather the strangers that were in the
strangers.
land of Israel.
These are not the homeborn bloodline children of Israel. These are the strangers that dwelt amongst us. Tamshik.
And he set masons to hew wrought stones to build the house of God. And David prepared iron in abundance for nails of the doors of the gates, and for the couplings, and brass in abundance without weight, and cedar trees without number. For the Zidonians and they of Tyre brought cedar trees in abundance to David. And David said, Solomon my son is young and tender, and the house that is to be built for Yahweh must be exceeding magnificent, of fame and of glory throughout all countries. I will therefore make preparation for him. So David prepared abundantly before his death.
So this is about because remember, we hired out Hiram,
Right?
who was a Zidonian king, to build that temple. He was the architect. He made it all happen, whatever the case may be. And you may say, well, he's a heathen or whatever the case may be. Well, he was half Israel, right? I think his mother was either a Naphtali. Some say that she was a Danite, whatever the case may be. When it comes to what you do to glorify God, you put forth your best.
That's right.
If the architect, I don't care if that's the best architect I can get,
Right.
is Chinese, I'm buying that Chinese architect because it don't got nothing to do with me. It's for God. It's for It's for the Most High. I be having visions of a place, man.
Yeah.
Ooh, sometimes I be scared to tell you because you're gonna think I'm crazy. But
You ain't hear mine.
yeah, I'm looking. Listen, there's a place in Brazil that they built like the Temple of Solomon, right? But like 3 times bigger. I forgot the name of this guy, and they walk around with a Ark of the Covenant, and they got menorahs everywhere. I'm like, man. Once the children of Israel decide to get themselves together, the things that we can accomplish. Because if they can do it, I definitely can do it. We just need the resources. So that's why I say sometimes we just got to be able to push because it's right before us. But we have to be able to have the trust to do the job. We have to be able to put forth enough. People have to be able to trust you to do the job. And also, I don't rush things anymore. I know that I'm a very impatient person. But things have to happen in God's time. When God feels that we're worthy, it'll happen. But I'm always looking. I'm always searching. So I'll call, be like, yo, check this one out. Look at this one. What's going on? Because we need a spot.
That's right.
We need a spot to do the work that we need to do to magnify God. And we don't need anybody to impede the progress of the work that we need to do. So you have to protect that. Tamshik.
Then he called for Solomon his son and Charles and to build the house of Yahweh, the God of Israel. And David said to Solomon, my son, as for me, it was in my heart to build the house unto the name of Yahweh my God. But the word of Yahweh came to me, saying, thou hast shed blood abundantly, and hast made great wars. Thou shalt not build the house unto my name, because thou hast shed much blood upon the earth in my sight. Behold, a son shall be born to thee, who shall be a man of rest. And I will give him rest from all his enemies round about, for his name shall be Solomon. And I will give peace and quietness unto Yisrael in his days. He shall build a house for my name. He shall be to me for a son, and I will be to him for a father. And I will establish the throne of his kingdom over Israel forever. Now, my son, Yehovah be with thee, and prosper thou, and build the house of Yehovah thy God as he hath spoken concerning thee. Only Yehovah give thee discretion and understanding, and give thee charge concerning Yisrael, that so thou mayest keep the law of Yehovah thy God. Then thou shalt prosper if thou observe to do the statutes and the ordinances which Yehovah charged Moshe with concerning Yisrael. Be strong and of good courage, fear not, neither be dismayed. Now behold, in my straits I have prepared for the house of Yehovah 100,000 talents of gold and 1,000 talents of silver, and of brass and iron without weight. For it is in abundance, timber also and stone have I prepared, and thou mayest add thereto. Moreover, there are workmen with thee in abundance, hewers and workers of stone and timber, and all men that are skillful in any manner of work. Of the gold, the silver, and the brass, and the iron there is no number. Arise and be doing, and Yehovah be with thee.
So stop there before we read the last paragraph. Very interesting. Our God told Dawid, who was our champion, who unified this nation, who defended this nation, who made the nations put respect on God's name, that he couldn't build his house because he was a man of war and a man that shed a lot of blood. I know that may have been hard for David. Like, wow, y'all, did you use me? Yeah, he did. And he wasn't able to see this outcome, but he had the vision in his heart. It was his dream to do this work of God. And you're going to notice this theme in our culture where, you know, sometimes the men that lead us to a certain point are not able to cross over with us.
That's right.
But the character that they have shows that regardless of what, I'm not mad that the job is going to get done. I'm confident that the job is going to get done. And even if I was able to make you go this far, torah YAH.
That's right.
Because my son is going to build it. Torah YAH, that Joshua is going to be the one to go over because it may not be your son. God don't work with dynasties, and that he deal with the people that have the best heart to do the job he wants them to do. Most of our kings were wicked. Most of our kings were dirty, idol worshippers, murderers. Most of our kings on the Judite side and the Israelite side, and the Israel side. Just 5 people. Because God don't work with royalty. God works with who is right. Get the job done. And David is telling you all the work he's put in. He said, I got all of this. I got gold, silver, all this stuff. I said, I have more than enough. If you want to add some to it, feel free.
Right.
So what he telling Shalom, feel free. But I got it all lined up, son. Everything. And this is what I found funny too. God is talking to Dawid, and he's actually telling him, I'm going to adopt Shalom. He said he's going to be to me as a son, and I'm going to be to him as a father. Imagine a relationship like that with God. Whew. And this is before even the concept of Christ and all the other. I'm going to adopt him as my son, and I'm going to be his father. I'm going to be his dad. But you know what that means? Because he's going to part. He's going to leave. And I know some of us think that we get old and we become grown.
Right.
I can testify to you this day who I don't have my father and my Ima deals with certain issues. You always need your parents.
Always.
There's an absence, as a grown man, there's an absence with you. And a grown woman that when your parents are not there or not available. You need your parents until your parents leave here or you die. Because there's something that speaks to the nature of who they are and who you are when y'all got into this earth. That DNA is something that talks beyond just words. Beyond words. When y'all saw George Floyd pass away and he was screaming out for his mother, he needs to see a wholesome image in his head and his spirit because he thought he was going to die, and he did die. But he needed that. That's a comfort in that you can't replace. Your mother's comfort that you can't replace. Me, when I was young, every time something happened, I would be like, I want my grandma. I want my grandma. My thing. I want my grandma. I want my grandma. I want my grandma. Because this is the way my grandmother used to hold me. You know what I'm saying? And those things, you remember those comforts, right? So anytime, and it didn't want to do it, hold it. I got a cut. And I'm in the hospital or something was going on. I want my grandma. I want my grandma. Yeah. But when she died, I bawled like a little baby. I bawled. I went downstairs. I got the call. I just started crying and crying and crying some more and crying and crying and crying because I'm not going to see her anymore. Can't talk to her, you know? I used to go visit her in the hospital. She'd be sleeping. She'd be like sleeping like. I'd just be there chilling. She wake up, don't laugh at my nickname. She be like, Natty, what you doing here? I'm like, nah, I've been here. I was just chilling. You was chilling, I'm chilling. You know what I'm saying? Like, I just need to look upon you to see that you're all right. You know? But imagine that with God, man. Imagine that with God. Like, you know, and this is something that we don't get. God is our comforter. He is. He is the one when you're in pain that you should be able to go to and talk to and get comfort from, because sometimes people, wifey ain't it, your husband ain't it. Sometimes other people in your family ain't it. Sometimes it just got to be God.
That's right.
Because everybody be dealing with their pain, but God knows the answer that other people can't give. Sometimes you want too much from people because people can't give it. But God always has the answer.
Amen.
Tamshik.
David also commanded all the princes of Israel to help Solomon his son.
Y'all better help my son.
Is not Jehovah your God with you? And have he not given you rest on every side?
Amen.
For he hath delivered the inhabitants of the land into my hand, and the land is subdued before Jehovah and before his people. Now set your heart and your soul to seek after Jehovah your God. Arise therefore and build ye the sanctuary of Jehovah God, to bring the ark of the covenant of Jehovah and the holy vessels of God into the house that is to be built to the name of Jehovah. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah. Brothers and sisters, I hope you got something that was brought forth today. Thanking the Most High God for all of your lives. Brothers and sisters, our God is good, man. He's good to us in all things. In all things. And we don't need to even short him a bit. Just glorify his name throughout our lives, and we'll be okay. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.